Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer member Vite Ramen. Thank you for your support. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers. Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will. But if you have some questions, you've come to the right place. It's Office Hours, your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast, featuring myself, DMO73, and I am joined, as always, by my Grants. and back from not being broken Paul's internet, Paul Reisman.
Hello?
Hello. Hi, Paul.
Well, are you all there?
Yeah.
Hello? Are you there?
Just once.
Is this thing on?
Just once. I would like an intro to go smooth with not these two
Check.
trolling me.
One.
Then why do you even have
One,
this
two.
podcast, dude?
That's
Check,
fair.
check.
That's a fair statement. As we get started in here tonight, I do just want to say thank you all so much for being here and participating in the chat and just being present. We love doing this show, talking amongst ourselves and talking with you in the chat. It's a ton of fun. If you like what we're doing, if we make you laugh and you want to consider supporting us, consider clicking that join button right down below if you are on desktop. I think join on mobile is like a weird issue, so I'm going to put a link here in the chat for if you can click on that. You can click on that button. You can click on that button to join the channel as a member. It gets you access to the things like the badges and the emotes, helps us unlock new emotes, and helps us buy new equipment and everything else for the channel. It's essentially a Twitch subscription, just YouTube's version of it. If, by the way, if you haven't already checked out your pre-orders for Game of Gods and the two starter decks, Odyssey Games has their pre-orders up and online. You can check the link in the description below to go straight to that page. They have boxes, pre-release kits, and starter decks for both ready and waiting. So go check that out too. So tonight, what we are doing tonight is we are talking about Saga Cluster. We have now had the entire cluster. All 4 sets have been released. All 4 sets have had something time to play around with. And we're looking forward to the future. I'm not really saying goodbye. I'm not really doing a goodbye to Alice Origins Cluster because we kind of have already done that a while ago, just in terms of talking about the identity of Alice Origins Cluster and how that's kind of been left behind a little bit. But now we're going to have Saga Cluster. I think, the identity of it is now fully known and we're going into a second year of it. But I would like to talk about what our thoughts are carrying that identity into a new cluster, kind of what it means going into a new format, what it means, what we enjoyed about it, high points, low points, what we're excited to see, or kind of what it could mean for the future, as well as what it's going to mean for Wanderer format or other alternatives. So that's kind of what we're doing tonight. Be sure to let us know your thoughts about these things as we go through them in the chat. I'm always curious to hear other people's opinions about this wonderful card game. So let's, Paul, I'm going to start with you. What are your overall thoughts, kind of quickly sum up your thoughts or opinions about what Saga Cluster has been?
Ooh. Well, I'm gonna start in a different place than gameplay or the way the games felt competitively, because I think I'm gonna go from up here to down here. I think this cluster proves to us that the new company knows what it's doing, can market to our players, and is listening to our feedback, and they deserve your trust.
Say more.
This cluster has been, the way that I have looked at this cluster alone, right? I mean, there's been some broken stuff with, some Alice Origin stuff crossing into Saga stuff, and there being just broken stuff with Rezard, and as the game went on, we got into the Beath Mouge debacle. But in general, I think the first set was meant to tell us that the Force of Will company now under I Spy can develop rulers that have powerful effects within reason. Set 2 told us they could innovate, they could do different things with rulers. Set 3 told us tag rulers are not the end all be all, because we had things like Violet We have things like Wolfgang 2 that are going to gain power as we go into set 4, where they can, again, just like recycle that same mechanic of tag, but also like figure out a way to sort of loop back into Wanderer stuff and make Wanderer fun, all in the course of like one cluster. For me, this is the best cluster we've had since probably SKL format.
Ooh, going all the way back to Alice cluster.
Damn.
Yeah.
I get that though.
Lapis
I get that
was
for sure.
pretty good in like LEL sort of stuff, but
Yeah, after Vingolf 3 came out, that was like the golden age, Force of Will. This definitely reminds me a lot of that.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's like one of those two for me.
Yeah, good point. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, I'm in a very similar boat. I think that the highs were very high in this cluster. I think that, I'm going to kind of just reiterate literally what I just said like 5 seconds ago. The fact that like we had, this set coming out, like the mini set with a couple of really good sets around that set. It reminds me a lot of that Lapis 2 plus Fingolf 3 kind of era, where it's like everything was very self-contained within itself. There was a lot of room for experimentation, despite how powerful things were. Like in Lapis Cluster, we saw stuff like Fox at full power, but like people could tech in Abdul, and people could tech in so many other choices. We didn't even have the be-all end-all answer to Fox. We didn't have the be-all answer to Lumia. There were people trying, like obviously the Lumia hook decks were around that were kind of foreboding and definitely put a stain on the format, but people were able to experiment with stuff that directly countered it, like the mono white Lumia deck that could only have been created during that specific format.
Yeah.
We're seeing that kind of come back. We're seeing people say, all right, cool. This format is seeing very powerful decks. Carlina is insanely powerful. Beef Mooge is insanely powerful. Belial is insanely powerful. All of them are very, very strong and have the tools they need to be the best decks in the game. And then somebody comes in and says, yeah, but they can't all beat this strategy. They can't all beat, Wolfgang that drops a Jewel on 2 and then just kind of rides out the rest of the game on it. Like, there's so much counterplay and there's so much room to think. Like, it reminds me of the way that Pokemon VGC has been for a long time. I personally play a little bit of VGC from time to time, but the thing is, when the metagame evolves to like the cream of the crop, you got like your Incineroars and your Landorus and your like things that are really, really like long-term strong.
Yes, I know Pokemon. Yes, I get what you're saying.
Cool.
I know
but
you were thinking my language.
Losing a little bit of Paul.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Paul.
Anyway,
continue.
But when you have stuff like that, when you have like Incineroar, Landorus at the top, you're like, all right, cool. Well, I know that those are going to show up on like 20% of the teams that I play against on ladder, minimum. So here I go, grabbing my competitive Milotic with Muddy Water to hard counter both of those, and then I base the rest of my team around the fact that Milotic can carry that. And that's the same. It's not quite the same principle because it's not like one part of your deck is meant to counter it, and another part of the deck counters that. It's like you tailor the deck to what you think is going to be the best, and then sideboard for which parts you think are going to be.
Yeah, I think a good indicator of that is just how much variety within the Fallen Angel decks we saw between two different decks running the same rulers. It like we had two completely different takes on Belial Estema in the top 8 at Minnesota. We had two completely different Carlina Dante lists in the top 8. And you saw tech cards that you were like, wait a minute, like people trying some crazy stuff out here and it working. Like someone played the guy who won played Carlina's Storm. Did I think that card was going to do anything going into this format? No. Did that guy say, nope, I've play tested around with it. I'm trying something goofy. I feel like I have the freedom to be able to experiment and innovate, so I'm going to try it. And did it pay off? Yes. And that's the thing to me about this format, about what Saga Cluster has kind of brought as a whole as we come to the end of it, is like, I think that the high points, I agree with you that the high points have been high. I think that the low points have not actually been that low.
They haven't been.
And
Relative to other formats
and
that we've seen,
I think the reason why is, to me, the low points have been competitive format low points. And like, this format to me has been, or this cluster to me has felt like so much of a love letter to every level of player. Like, there is literally something for everyone in this cluster. Like, you like to play sealed, don't play set 3, but you can play other sets and you'll have a good time with sealed or draft. Like, you like to play cube. Like, we brought 15 cards from the 7th into the cube, plus some cards from the other sets of this set into the cube, and it was great. You like to play singleton formats? Cool, we've got some stuff for you. You like to play super casual experimental like experimental New Frontiers, or got it. You like to play super high competitive New Frontiers? Got it. You like to play Wanderer? Got it. Like, it just felt like this was a cluster where anywhere you wanted to play, this cluster has a good amount of stuff for you. Not like I got a card, but like, no, here's a good chunk of stuff. And for me, like, we didn't have, like, again, we can admit that the power level has ramped up, right? Whether that ramped up too fast for you or not, like, that's a player preference thing. I look at it as we're in year 6. So, like, power ramp's gonna happen, and like, we're not gonna go down that road again. But I think that from an enjoyment factor, this cluster has brought so much. I think Paul's trying to message me about his internet.
Oh, no.
He's restarting his internet. It's been spotty all day. He'll get back to us when he can. I think that this cluster has just been enjoyable from start to finish. And I think it's been easy to enjoy, because I do think that there have been clusters where you get people like me, the ever optimist, as some in the community would criticize me to say, shill, and I like try to make it seem enjoyable to like try to get you to be motivated.
Paul did shill for this cluster way more than you've ever shilled in like the first 5 minutes of the stream.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
honestly,
For sure. But that's what I'm saying,
so.
is like, I haven't felt like I needed to try to push people to convince them that this cluster was enjoyable. I think that people have,
the game just speaks for itself.
I think the game has just been enjoyable. And to me, now this is an entire cluster that is purely I Spy's direction, like 100%.
And it's guess.
And it's very good. It makes good decisions. It scratches every itch, and it makes me very excited for where we are to the future. And it also,
I'm extremely excited to see. Like, I do love the formats that we're in right now, where it's this open. Like, I don't know, the past 2 formats, like with Thief Mouge being at the top and Violet trying to inch in, like, it felt like a very 1-to-1, like almost like a Fox versus
Prissy
meta
format. Yeah,
but
it was only 3
like
months. It was only 3 months.
It was only 3 months. But
right.
Then after that, the 7th comes out, and just like everything turned on its head. Like, contextualizing the power level of every one of those sets with just the overall utility of these new rulers and some of the cards that were introduced. Garyon existing.
Yeah.
Garyon just warped them format.
Yeah.
Fully.
And like you said, like, it can feel very, very obvious to like gravitate towards like, yes, this tag combination is great. Like, there's so much power in this tag combination. But there's also this idea of like knowing what people are going to gravitate to is very easy to paint targets on people. I mean, I'm
trying to work with Dark Alice right now, because Dark Alice has access to multiple
life loss avenues.
Yeah, life loss avenues, because you just get like, you drop the regalia, you get like 4 of them, you get another 5th one, drop your shadows, get 7, you're like 7/10 of the way to the kill on Belial. And it's like, who could have thought, like, they're not playing the Welser to bounce it back. If you're playing against the Welser deck, you side that out.
Yeah.
You side out your regalia and you just play a beatdown.
Side decks have become, in the competitive format, sideboards have become incredibly important. And also, like, even earlier today, I was playing against a Stemma Belial, and I was playing my Wolfgang 2 deck, and it went great. Like, we had a great games, and we got to way late in the game, and it came down to a grind, and then I ended up winning the match anyway. But like, but again, throughout the entire, even when I was losing, like this was enjoyable, right? You're still good.
I know. I'm a little worried.
I think Saga Cluster has shown what's possible, right? in a way that I think a lot of players that have been sticking around have wondered if we would ever see a cluster like this ever again. And so I think it's done what it needs to do, and I think it's had a really good impact, and I think the sales have gone really well, and so the hope is that, like, talking about the future is now we've seen how this approach to set design and card design and character design has been so well received, so now we can carry it further on. Todd, an ode to Saga, best cluster pound for pound in Forcible history.
He went from no dud sets to one. Ooh, I'm curious. Todd. What did you think was the dud?
I don't think there was a dud set. I think
I'm curious to know what he thought, though.
I think the set 3 curse was certainly broken.
100%. Pound for pound, I definitely think that Saga 1 was the worst cluster, just because
Saga 1 was the worst set.
Worst set out of the cluster, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but it was also the beginning of the cluster, right? You kind of expect it to be kind of like not have.
It gave us the best card in the entire world, though. It gave us the best card in the game, Kiki.
Yeah, of course. You're back, Paul. Welcome back.
Hey, welcome back, Paul. I'll crack one open for you.
So, Gray, you bring up an excellent point. Will dual cluster do the same? I think that for what we've seen so far, I think there's clear indications in language to the distributors and language and, that kind of stuff, that there is nothing. I don't think there's anything to doubt that dual cluster will carry on this same vein of like approach to card design, right? While also being new and innovative. We're going back to New Valhalla. We're rehashing characters a little bit again, in a new light because we're carrying forward with the story. But we are seeing a new mechanic. It feels very much like in the language of it and the kind of setup for this cluster, we're moving away from tag. So it's not like we're just like, it's just tool rulers forever now, right? Like, that's not just going to be the be all end all. And so for me, that's like, cool. There's still more to learn. There's still more to see. And I think in this cluster, I Spy has shown us like, hey, give us a chance to show you new stuff and you're going to enjoy it. And everything they're showing us so far for dual cluster is, hey, we've got a cluster of new stuff. I'm like, then I'll probably enjoy it.
Oh, I get it. Todd was the language of the commas. The language of the commas was not great for me there.
Yes. So I'm very excited, and also just this stuff has playing in the Wanderer event kind of reignited my love for Eternal formats.
Wanderer's dank right now, dude. Wanderer's so dank.
Yeah, there's so much. There's a lot of very silly things that you can do right now, and it's not just Carlina or bust.
It's somewhat, but also there's other stuff.
Yeah, there is other stuff
that needs to really struggle, but can beat Carlina.
Yeah,
it feels uphill just because Carlina has so much good stuff.
Yeah, but I think that there's that's one of the cool things is Paul now has a camera to be able to record stuff, and I taught him how to plug it in to charge it or to be able to.
He also has internet again.
Yeah. So.
Paul's internet.
There's a very real chance of us starting to get kind of more feature matches or more Wanderer stuff up here on the channel in terms of matches, which is pretty cool. What are y'all on? Not on anything. I'm on Discord and XSplit and YouTube.
Damn, you beat me to it.
He just got his Almerius today for Alice Palace. Nice. I currently it's de-sleeved now because I needed the cards for stuff for New Frontiers, but I think if I was gonna go back to Wanderer, I think I'd still probably play that Giants list. I had such a fun time with that
Hungry
Giants
Box,
list.
baby.
I think I just that deck is like the quintessential Jeremy deck. So I'm just like
it's big dudes, it's versatility, and it's bitey lady.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
And uncancelable Virgils from the deck. Like, it's pretty good.
That's the dankest part of the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'd tweak it a little bit, but I think I'd be back on Carlina Belial, mainly because I want to abuse the Giants, if I'm being honest. They're just very fun to abuse.
Yeah. Do I also have a wish list for the ban list for Wanderer? Definitely do. Do I know who to send it to? Sort of, and I will.
Kind of.
I will badger until I can no longer badger until I am mushroom.
Fair enough.
Oh.
Hey. So
Snake. Oh, snake.
I love your internet boomer jokes, Mike.
So
I was
let's
gonna
do
let it
this.
happen.
Let's do this. Least favorite card of all of Saga Cluster.
Least favorite card?
Least favorite card. The card
That's not
the card that you hate. That's not a ruler. Rulers
It's
are
not a ruler.
rulers
Are
are
we counting
easy.
stones?
Rulers are stop. Let's talk
Are we
about like
counting
main. We're
stones?
talking about main deck cards.
Understandable.
And let's
Six
talk.
Ages is out of there.
Let me
I want Six Ages
rephrase.
banned in every format that exists. In
Let me
Force
rephrase.
history.
Let me rephrase.
Anyway.
Let me rephrase this. Let me rephrase. Worst card in all of Saga Cluster in your eyes. Let me. That's what I meant to say. In your eyes, what is the worst card in all of Saga Cluster?
Ooh.
Well,
Oh,
let me
Little
just
Match
pull
Girl.
up the fan base,
What?
fan database.
The new Little Match Girl.
The new Little Match
Why
Girl?
did you print that ability on a card to
Nah.
get infinite matchsticks?
I
don't get it.
I have a card that's worse. I think
Oh, Jeremy found the secret spice.
it's not. It's from set 4.
Well, you should go then, because I'm still looking for the one I
It
hate
is
the
the
most.
it is the red mimic dragon. That card is the worst card in all of Saga Cluster.
What?
Oh, the one drop dragon that copies things.
That card has 0 playability in any format that's not cube. In any format that's not cube, that card has 0 playability. I have not in my entire life.
I feel like there's something.
I have not in my life seen anyone even remotely try to resolve that card ever. Not even like think about it. That card is hands
pretty
down
early
the
in the
worst
format.
card.
Sounds like challenge mode, Jeremy.
Do it. Prove me wrong.
Feature match on Foul Wednesday. Let's go, bro.
You build me a deck that works with that card, and I will feature it. As many have said, as I have said many a time, Mike, look at me. Do it. You won't.
I'm gonna do it, dude. I'm gonna so do
Desperate
it.
Aid.
Desperate Aid's terrible too. Oh man, all of the Snow White cards. Oh my god, every single one of those is trash. Even the Marvel is garbage.
Snow
How do you
White.
think a Marvel oh yeah, that thing's trash.
Persephone, Snow White.
Poopy doo doo Garbaggio. Don't talk to me.
Let's see.
The Red Dragon. The worst. The worst.
The what?
He's in the cube, and I still think he's the worst.
That's pretty good.
I'm really leaning towards the Avenger cards. Right? So like the Avenger of Amadeus Giant. The heart, the limbs.
Whoa. Paul, you made an enemy for life.
Well, hold on.
I
didn't say they were bad cards. I said they're the worst cards in the best cluster.
I said the worst card. Thank you very much. Card.
Well,
so
they Exodia. So
no, you just go to the edition that all it does is reveal your opponent's hand. That would be the worst card in all of them.
Oh, that was pretty trash too.
Yeah.
No, all I gotta do. No. The best thing you gotta do. The Amadeus package can't be bad because all you have to do is send the Amadeus from deck to grave, and then immediately as the effect resolves, put it back into the deck.
Mimic Vase.
You dance shadows it, and then you do that play.
I changed my mind. One of Tides. Done. Worst card. Whole set.
Wait, which one?
Whole Saga cluster. Magic Stone of Tides. Produce blue or rest. Choose one at random.
First of all,
blue.
We discounted stones, but first of all, it's the best card because it made an entirely new ruling based on random chance on a will production.
It's true.
There's no precedent for that before. It's great.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. No, this cluster has had its fair share of highs and lows, and we could probably go round after round after round of like which card is worse and why, and which card is better and why. And I think that to me, one of the things that this cluster I think has brought forth, which I'm very much looking forward to continuing that trend, is the diversity and intensity and enjoyment of talking about Ursa Will. has really increased. I think, you know,
I've had a lot more fun doing the podcast since Saga Cluster.
The Force of Will, like this podcast, the Force of Will, the Ruler School Discord over this course of this past year has probably added like 100 members. And they don't all talk all the time. You know, it's usually a lot of the similar kind of faces, but when those people do get in or ask questions, like people are getting excited, and like the conversations that I'm having are so much more fun. Like I said, while Paul was drafted out, like I feel like I have to do as a content producer and also kind of a brand ambassador in a sense, I feel like I have to do so much less work now when interacting with the community, because people are just like enjoying themselves and having really cool conversations. And there are a share of like aggravating conversations that come up where I'm like, ugh, frustrating that we're having this conversation again. But those are fewer and farther between, and the other conversations that are having are so much more fun. Like it used to be, conversations were non-existent or complaining, right? And over the course of the past year, that has drastically shifted to people just enjoying themselves more and talking about it in silly ways more. And the complaining still happens, but like that's fine. You're allowed to be constructive and have good conversations. It helps feedback. It helps me be able to raise feedback to the company or like make suggestions or point people in different ways. And that's, the community has become so much more active, like via connection. And part of that is because COVID, because we have to have that connection somehow, right? But also I think a large part of that is because of what Saga Cluster is. When it's brought to the table, and I'm really looking forward to what that brings for Dual Cluster, especially with all these people coming into the game who've never experienced the lore of the High Gods with Valhalla, like people who just never got to experience those kinds of characters and that kind of storytelling. It'll be really cool to see them kind of come back to it.
Yeah, we're gonna have people coming in, and then they're gonna see somebody play out, and they're gonna be like, "You think you're a god?" What was the quote from Road to El Dorado?
Yeah. You're not a god?
Stars.
El Dorado.
Every single time I play that card. El Dorado.
No.
The magnificent.
That's the worst card.
No.
In this whole
El
cluster.
Dorado Pearl Shine. Get out.
Would burn in a fire.
I will fight you, Paul.
Paul is just disappointed because one time in the cube when we were at Minnesota, I flickered El Dorado 2 times in one turn, the same turn that he came into play. So at the end of the turn, I had 3 of every single gem.
That sounds like an excellent play. You should definitely make your opponent discard their entire hand.
I did. It was good. Yeah. It was very good.
Yeah, he did.
He was not happy.
You could do that in Wanderer with Tigers, because you start with the extra gems. You start with like 3 of them, then you play the Tiger, you play the El Dorado, and you
there's a world where I'm like, Tigris in Wanderer with El Dorado. Don't hate it,
but it's
you
fun.
Have flute.
You have flute.
Flute ramping into
a boy. You have 8 mana dorks in that deck.
Paul Reisman, guess who got Loki's Insight and Final Stance? Dope.
Ooh.
That means hopefully hopefully we also got them at Odyssey. I'm very much looking forward to. I don't need Loki's Insights, but I do need Final Stance.
I also need Final Stance.
I also need 2 more copies of Exorcist Mage.
CG Prime, if you would, Dan, if you'd like to send me just a crumb of Final Stances,
it's like one.
You need like a corner of a
play set. Be really nice.
Okay, so let's talk about this.
Neatly scissored out corner of a Final Stance.
Let's talk about this in the sense of, we talked before about mechanically and like character wise kind of what we're interested in, or like tried to break down those kinds of things from upcoming Dual Cluster. Let's talk about this. What about the identity or kind of approach that we've seen to set and card design from Saga Cluster? Like, what parts of that would you like to see kind of continued into next cluster, and what parts are things that you kind of would like to have left behind? Now remember, I'm not saying mechanics. So like, I recognize that like tag, like I think all of us can agree we don't want to see tag again. It's had its time. Like, that was a cool experiment. Let's move on to try something different. I'm talking about as in terms of how cards and sets have been designed and approach to characters and everything else. What that kind of piece you'd like to see carried forward into the next cluster.
Biggest thing, I'm really hoping we don't get situational Omni Stones again. I'm tired of the 5-color stone.
Yeah.
Just making it so that everybody can play good stuff that deck. I want decks to feel like they have very strict guidelines to follow at this point. Because you can just slap a 6-8 stone in any deck. Like you can play 1 or 2 in a deck that wants to, in a non tag deck, but you can play 4 in a tag deck with no repercussions to it. And it's just like I just want to see some more. I want to see things get interesting again. I want to see deck construction. I want to see people think even harder about deck construction than they already are.
But like really because of color restrictions, as opposed to anything else.
As opposed to I can fit anything in my deck. Time to look at the entire card pool and see what the best 40 to 60 cards I can.
Because that's what we're currently dealing with. Is like you have to look at the entire card pool, and it's difficult to like think about what 40 to 60 are you really actually playing, because there's so many good things and what the tech cards are and what the matchups are.
Joey and I had such a struggle trying to figure out how to. We're testing out an Asmodeus deck. I don't know how it's going to be, but like finding 60 good cards is really hard because you don't know what's going to work the best. Like you have to think of every single decision. Every amount of cards in your deck matters so much more than it used to.
Yeah, for sure.
Like your one of tech choices are like massive.
Yes, absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah. No, I hear that a lot in terms of not carrying forward so much safety in the stone base into next cluster. Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I would have to agree because the period of time between Rhea cluster and New Valhalla, like that format, was really interesting, mostly because we didn't have those multiple stones, right? We didn't have dual stones.
Sure.
And I've gone on record saying that I don't want dual stones in the next cluster.
But he does want. He has one tri-stones.
Conversation.
He wants tri-stones.
Yeah.
He doesn't want dual stones.
We have a tri-stone.
But we're gonna rotate out.
If you rotate out. Stone, just play Wolfgang 1. It's gonna be good, guys.
There you go.
Trust me. I guess the thing that I want to see is sort of an awareness that green is still the best color in Force of Will, and like reining that in a little bit. I do like that the cancels were a little bit.
Is it though?
More interesting.
Think of your 2 best rulers in the format.
No, I understand, but like, is green the thing that's making that good?
Yes, there's Welser exists.
I legitimately think that black exists. I think black is the best color in FAO right now.
You're also a black shill.
I'm also a green shill.
Don't take that out of context. Okay. I'm gonna be over here.
Statements.
Yeah. Making weird.
Green and black are the best colors in Force of Will.
I won't argue with that.
Let's talk about attributes. Darkness and wind.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Well, I can call Jeremy a darkness shill, and it sounds much better.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's true.
Sorry, Paul. I interrupted you. Continue.
Oh my god.
Recognition of green darkness dominance and try to rein it back.
Yeah, just trying to rein it back a little bit. I mean, like they're like getting a new Seal of Wind and Light was great and all, but the fact that it gets cheaper as the game goes on, it kind of skews the game more toward rulers who could benefit more from cancels. And cancels in games like Magic and Force of Will inherently just have so much of an effect on a game state that you want to play them, right? And so just having some awareness of that in the R&D team and just saying like, okay, like how do we make blue stronger? Because they did a really good job with that this cluster with Chelina. Like it was in the chat, but I'm going to say the Chelina's still really good, guys. I just haven't found a deck I want to put her in yet.
Bounce is good. Bounce is good.
Parasol. There was just like tons and tons of really good stuff coming out in blue. Fiola's amazing. And Fiola's a really good cancel that isn't in green. So I'm like, okay, is there a way that we can? It isn't a cancel, right? It's technically not a cancel. It just
technically white got to cancel the set. Just cancels
God's Arts, but
that I was also thinking Silmaria, but yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just like toning down on the cancels just a little bit, and making the battle step a little bit more integral to gameplay would be great. But for the most part, I can't hate it. I mean, whenever you make battle more important in a game, you inherently slow it down a little bit and you make it more interactive, which I like.
Something I would really like to see, just kind of jumping off of this kind of idea of like, just like things that haven't really been explored to their fullest extent, like talking about Chelina. I really, really hope they go back to like mana production or mana ramp strategies in things other than green, because I think they had the perfectly correct idea with Flute from set 1. Like, that card's crazy good, and it's just in like arguably one of the worst colors in the game.
Paul, ISM is correct. I see your face. ISM is correct.
It doesn't.
Chelina only sends things to bottom of deck if they're bounced by the ability of a card, not by like a spell effect.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, words.
Yeah.
Oops.
Thanks, ISM. I appreciate
continue.
that.
Yeah.
But anyway, like Flute was a big deal. Dolly was kind of huge.
Yeah.
Like, if
Dolly is still huge.
Yeah.
I think.
But I just still think that just like those two were a really solid step. But then we got to like the traditional like Featsing could produce colorless for spells. Melfi was a spell that produced any two colors.
Yeah.
Carlina is literally just mana ramp
on a body. Yeah, for sure. So
there's a lot of that I felt like didn't need to exist. Like, I wish they kind of experimented with even just putting those exact abilities like verbatim on cards outside of green.
Yeah.
Would have made it so much more interesting, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal. I think that that's been one of Forceful's inherent problems since the beginning, having both ramp, which is always really disgustingly good in card games, and cancels, which are, why remove something when you could just cancel it?
Yeah.
Like, it's just it makes you like know that you're going to be out ahead, and also you're going to be out ahead on tempo because you stopped your opponent from doing anything. And now the cancels are so efficient and cheap that it's like man, come on.
Yeah. I think to me, the one thing that I really want to have carry over into next cluster is this like such clear ruler identity in terms of like what that ruler is trying to accomplish. And I'm nervous about that as we go back to Valhalla. Thankfully there's no extra deck.
I remember DBV.
Thankfully there's no I mean, like, not even DBV. Like, Valhalla as a mechanic was, this is the ruler gimmick. The rulers themselves don't matter nearly as much as their rune comp. So you're picking rune comp based on color necessity, which then determines what ruler you're playing. But like a lot of decks back in the day, outside of like specific rulers, it was just like, I'm a white ruler. I need Brunhild or Adam. But I really could do either one. Or I need there was a little bit of it in terms of like machine art, like archetypal kind of stuff, right? With like machines or dragons. But like, especially by the end of the cluster, it was just like, what are the good chant runes? That's that color. Which of the two rulers that plays that color do I feel like playing? It really doesn't matter.
Because every deck was just explore the unknown, freed from the altar.
Exactly, right? So this cluster, and then like Alice Origins cluster, like toned down that gimmickiness a little bit in the sense of like the regalia and all of the rulers felt kind of really unique in the way that they interacted with the stranger deck. So it didn't necessarily feel like such color choice driven, and like we did get color, but all of the rulers still were like forge. It was some kind of pop, some kind of stranger reveal, some kind of draw value engine, some kind of judgment, right? That was how all of them worked. Right, so they all felt very samey. And then we get into this cluster, and like Celesta is not Lilius, is not Wolfgang 2, is not Wolfgang 1, is not Six Sage, is not Fallen, is like they all feel so different in terms of like what do I want to be doing? And that feels a lot of diversity and flexibility, especially at the casual level of just like every deck I sit down and play, I feel something different. Last week at Locals, I literally played Wolfgang 2 and Olivia and a Stemma Belial like in different rounds because people wanted to play against different decks. And all three of those decks piloted completely differently, and they were completely different games of FOW, and I had a great time. As we go into Saga Cluster or Dual Cluster, I want to see that continue. I want Odin to feel vastly different from Yarly, to feel vastly different from Kaguya, to feel vastly different from Loki. Like, I want that design space to carry through, because the rulers are the uniqueness of rulers is what attracted me to FOW in the beginning. So I want to see that really hit back on continuously. So that's the thing that I really want to see carry through.
Yeah. 100%.
Another round of Faria Knights.
No more. No Knights. Can't be Knights. I already told you why I can't be Knights.
Knights of the Round Table.
Excuse me. Billy Buttons did participate in the Minnesota tournament.
Oh yeah.
He was there, so Knights can be good.
Dream isn't dead. Nice.
Dream isn't dead.
Let Paul make it happen.
Blazer and Arla Knights.
Remember Blue White? That was fun.
Ooh.
Some dank old school right there.
Yeah,
nice.
I think that with everything that we're seeing up to now, I have no concerns about Dual Cluster. I think the only real concerns that we've already expressed is like hoping that Dual Stone Scale get reprinted or get replaced with something stupid like Tri Stones.
Sorry, are we keeping up, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm a little tired tonight.
Monday.
Yeah, it is Monday. It's been
Monday
a long
blues.
day. I think I don't have a lot of fear or like apprehension about Dual Cluster. I think storyline wise, we're going back to some known characters, but also some characters that we never really got to really flesh out, which is great. We have a history of a year's worth of products that if we take that model and apply it to next year, makes me very excited because of how good Rebirth of Legends shipped off. We're getting starter decks again. That's super huge. I've made it very clear to the company that they should, if not print new starter decks alongside every set, make sure to reprint runs of the starters throughout the whole cluster. And that feedback seemed to have been well received in my communication to them. Do I single-handedly have power over the market? God, I wish. I don't. But, we'd see. So, like, there's all these things that they've now shown us a year of, like, what FOW can be. Again, like I said it before, what FOW can be and how it can be executed well. And to me, they've had growth in that, and we're now going into a new post-feedback time of them being told that was successful, which gives me confidence that we'll see very similar stuff in the next year. And that's exciting. That's just exciting. It's a good time to be a FOW player. When we hit that 10-year mark, dude, like, it's gonna be dope.
We'll just have like we'll just have all the card games that tried to outlive Force of Will mounted like a trophies across the mantle.
I'm gonna do the FOW Fest too, and I'm gonna have special awards that are named after all of the tournaments that were dead, or all the games that are dead. You win the Argent Saga award. You don't want to win that award, by the way. If you come to my tournament, you really don't want to win that award.
You last 3 rounds and then have to leave.
Yeah, you have to leave.
Why is it just one of those logs I put in my fireplace?
Well,
I have no idea.
It's really weird.
Might be flammable.
Minimum flammable, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good that's happening, and it has me in this spot of just like I've joked for the longest time that if I have a bajillion of them, that the card that is the unofficial Jeremy Franklin promo is Last Audience. And the reason why is because that is legitimately the This Is Fine dog as a Force of Will card. And the past 5 years of my life in FAO has just been being the This Is Fine dog of the Force of Will community. And Saga Cluster has never made me feel like I was in that space. I've had essentially a whole... There have been stressful moments, sure, but for a whole year, I have not had to have that kind of feeling. And that's great. More, please. More of that, please.
Oh my goodness.
And the community itself
What a
is
time.
like the community. I think the community itself has. I think people in the community have started to find their voice. That the positive people are more willing to call out when the negativity arises and kind of bring people back to center. And so thank you, Saga Cluster, for helping that as well. And I think a big part of that is because of how enjoyable, like we said before, Saga Cluster has had something for everyone. And so I think that everyone has felt really empowered by this set. That it's a lot easier to kind of put down the naysayers or push aside the naysay, which is great.
Still holding out for a 25 card set that directly supports Wanderer. And then as a box topper, produces alternate art variations of the supers from DBV. Full
You
art.
had me until that last part, but
You had me, then you lost me.
Because, again, there are players who will never, ever, ever, ever see those supers without dropping like 40, 50 bucks.
I'm
like,
back
per
in.
copy.
I'm back in.
So
I honestly think I might know a location to be able to get Uber DBV promos. Maybe I should just see if I can capitalize and flood the market with them at a super cheap rate. Like $10 a card.
ooh,
For DBV
please do.
Ubers.
That's pretty
just like,
spicy.
just like destroy
Please
it.
do.
Let me see.
$10 Dark
and then
Alice's? Don't mind if I
Alice
do.
I don't know,
Labs.
not Dark Alice's.
I know.
I said the DBV Ubers. The DBV Ubers.
Oh, I thought we were talking about DBV cards that mattered.
No.
Anyway.
A lot of those DBV cards do matter. Thank you very much.
I think they literally all mattered. I don't think there was like,
Except for Gnarly.
besides Shiva and
Gnarly was
Genshi
like,
Tensho,
man.
Okay.
and that's it.
So the 5 Ubers that were printed, I'm pretty sure like 3 of them are banned. So I don't know what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I mean,
just,
that's fine.
just Kage and Ploki.
If Yu-Gi-Oh was
Ploki's
just
not.
anything,
Athenia.
it'll get
sorry,
banned eventually
Athenia
when
is. Yes,
power
Ploki
creep,
is not.
you know.
ISM, I have like 7 Dark Alice Rabbit Princess Alerts. So I should sell those. Yeah, I mean, you probably should at least sell 3 of them. Don't sell all 7. Sell 3.
Oh, there's your
Keep a place
college
set for
textbook
yourself.
money right there.
There you go.
There's your college textbook money, and there's your winning every Wanderer event by playing them, which is great too.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
play them in the Carlina list because I didn't want those to be like my 1 card per turn, but like still a great card. Like
Yeah,
still
in
an
any deck other
absolutely
than-
busted
in,
card.
in all one deck that isn't Carlina that is viable in Wanderer, you could definitely play 4 Dark Alice.
Asmodeus with the cradles, dude. Cradle Asmodeus with Dark Alice.
Spicy.
Oh my god. That's so good.
I have 2 Cradles of Darkness. Flash in Dark Alice. Draw a sack. Draw a sack. Force your discard
when you're
2.
talking like Odin wasn't ridiculous. You just put that guy in the graveyard. You bury your at end of the turn. You dance to the shadows and back at the end of your turn after end of
Yeah,
turn
we played
triggers.
that on the channel. We played Infinite Swings Odin.
Yeah.
It was dumb, and I loved it. It
It's
was
super
dumb,
dumb.
and I loved it. Swing twice Odin was swing 3 times Odin was a fun deck.
The only card that didn't matter was the Brunhild that was supposed to go along with him.
Correct.
Oh well.
Correct.
That's true.
Uh,
It's a $5 super.
It's not even worth that much. I
Yeah.
hope.
I think on TCG it was still marketed at like $5, so I'm like,
That's how rare that set is. Garbage can be literally like something worth less than this coaster I have for my drink is worth $5 still. That's how rare that
Savage.
set was.
I do want to say, kind of as we close things out again, feature
Sorry,
match.
is it hot in here? Is it just me?
Feature match for this week is going to be a Dante Belial mid range versus a my red, white, black Wolfgang 2. The kind of newest iteration of Wolfgang 2, which I have been having an absolute blast with. If you are a channel member, you will get to view that feature match tomorrow. It'll be up a day early for channel members. Yes.
Whoa.
Deck profiles for those will be up also this week, and we will have the list from last week, the Asmodeus Carlina list from Paul Clute, up this week. Sorry for the delays in that. I was out of town for a day this weekend, and so I didn't get a chance to record it, but I have the list ready. Yeah, unbelievable. How dare
Jeremy, you're not
breaks.
playing Forceful 24/7 and making content for Forceful 24/7. I am unsubscribing, unfollowing. I'm going to delete your Facebook.
Wait.
I'm going to delete. I'm going to unfollow you from Forceful Global.
This is weird.
Considering my number.
Considering I'm one of the admins on Forcible Global, that will be very difficult for you.
I'll get somebody to admin me just so I can block you. I'm going to make Forceful Global no Jeremy Franklin.
There's just a group that's just Forcible Global, but without Jeremy.
I'd get a bunch of toxic players back in. That'd be great.
Yeah, probably. There'd probably be some toxic players who would love to be in that community with you.
Forceful needs another villain. I don't know what to say.
We don't. Look at me. We don't. Remember that whole...
Like a little...
Remember... No, we don't. Remember that whole... No, we don't.
Just a tiny...
Stop.
Tiny
I'm going to kick
bit.
you out of this chat.
You just got to say, like...
I'm
you
muting
just gotta
him
say,
now.
like...
Nope. I'm just going to mute. And then muted. Cool. No one can hear Mike anymore. It's great. We don't have any... no villains. Remember how I said I didn't want to be the This Is Fine dog anymore? We don't need any villains. We're done. It's all done.
We're going to dual cluster. We need villains,
that's
right?
Impressive.
To combat the heroes.
Oh, look at him go! Look at him! Look at Mike go! There he goes.
Wow. Mike the mime.
Can't hear you, buddy. Okay, now we can hear you.
Really easy. I was gonna say, I'm using a swivel chair that makes it really easy to
pull yourself. Yeah.
Right. Okay, you can mute me again.
No, you're good. So, all in all, Saga Cluster has. I think we can all agree that Saga Cluster has been a wonderful addition to the game. It's helped things in a lot of different ways. It has created some unique challenges that I think people have some legitimate. One word, yeah. It has created some unique challenges or kind of strains to some of the old guard players, which I can understand, understandable. But see previous conversation about those problems that you're complaining about or that have been brought up are just card game problems. They're not necessarily force of will problems. So they were bound to be present as part of our conversation. And we're looking forward to what Dual Cluster has to offer. Speaking of Dual Cluster, as we come into the end here, if you haven't already gotten your pre-orders in for the set, please go check out Odyssey Games in the link down below. Check that out. They have pre-orders for boxes, pre-release kits, and each of the 2 starter decks. Starter decks are only being pre-ordered at 15 a piece right now on Odyssey's store, so pretty much very, very affordable. So check them out. And if we like what we did and we made you laugh and you want to help us try to unlock that Brad emote, consider clicking that join button or going to www.youtube.com/dm073/join.
Nobody ever uses wwws. What are you doing, Jeremy?
To join the channel as a member, and we will go on and you can support the channel that way and access to all kinds of cool perks. But that's it for us for tonight. Looking at the chat. Final thoughts. Repent Ploki, but make her even stronger. Spoilers. We don't have any spoilers as of yet. Hopefully we'll start to see maybe this. The thought would be maybe this week we might start to see preview images. Like we saw before. Like we might get to see those like spoiler images that we saw kind of like previewing for the Fallen Angels, so maybe we'll get to see those this week. If we do, we'll talk about those next week. Otherwise, we'll have some more videos for you, and we'll talk about some other things when we get back. See you next week. So until next time, this has been myself, DM073, and I've been joined by Paul Reisman, who's muted himself, apparently. And unmuted Mike Rants.
Bang.
Saying,
Right.
class dismissed.
Am I muted?
Have a good night, everybody.